Why do I do this to myself? Hello, Jacksonites, and welcome to the third installment of the Gamera franchise re-review. And enough with the fish jokes, Sean. So pardon my
That's a lot of
slightly...
fish.
Didn't I say radio silence?
I'm making my own compilation right now.
Child.
Just go.
So pardon my slightly bedheadish looking appearance. I just got up about 45 minutes ago at this kid's insistence to get this review out. Today, I will be reviewing the third installment of the Gamera franchise, and one that many people do like. So, me, of course, being myself, I don't particularly care for. And that is 1967's Gamera versus Gyaos. And it just gets worse and worse from here, guys. So, Gamera vs. Gyaos, being the third installment of the series, was when the Gamera series really started to morph into what for a long time many people viewed the Gamera series as garbage. It was with Gamera vs. Gyaos when the budgets for the films got were starting to get low. Thankfully, they didn't go full on Gamera versus Virus with Gamera versus Gyaos, though there are definitely elements of that in Gamera versus Gyaos. And as far as production knowledge about this movie's concerned, the only thing that I know is that from here on out, Noriaki Yuasa will be back in the director's chair for the rest of the Showa series, including up to Gamera Super Monster. But aside from that, don't know a damn thing. So, and of course, today I will be reviewing Gamera versus Gyaos with KPF at his insistence because he really enjoyed doing Barugan. Make yourself known, boy.
I really did, actually. And it just keeps getting more KPF from here during this series.
Yes, unlike the Godzilla series. So, KPF, what is your history with Gamera versus Gyaos?
I saw Barugan and I said, well, fuck it, might as well just help Nick get this series out because I did enjoy Barugan a lot more than I thought. So I popped this one in and I had a lot of fun with it. That's about it.
Well, Gamera versus Gyaos for me, I don't really have that much to say about it, personal history wise, because, of course, I'd read about the film on Wikipedia, and I noticed that you're not going to top me in the burp department, boy. Anyway, so, of course, and I noticed that Gyaos was the only recurring monster throughout the Gamera series. So, of course, that instantly made me think, well, Gyaos must be Gamera's King Ghidorah. And even when I was a kid, I wasn't the biggest Gyaos fan. But as I grew older and as I finally watched Gamera versus Gyaos, I wasn't really all that impressed. But as I went through the Gamera series and I became more involved with the Kaiju fan base, I noticed that Gyaos does have quite a big fan base amongst the Gamera series. And I've tried to like this movie, but for some reason I just could never do it. So, of course, me being me, with Gyaos being considered Gamera's King Ghidorah, of course I don't like Gyaos. And as I watched the Heisei Gamera series, I was massively disappointed that Gyaos was the one that got rebooted and became the big threat for the Heisei Gamera series. Especially when for Guardian of the Universe, it was supposed to be Barugan originally. Sadly. But anyway, so as the years went on, as I tried to rewatch Gamera versus Gyaos, I just could not get into this movie for the life of me. It's got some good things going for it, but overall, it's not a Gamera fan that I'm a big fan of. So I'm so early in the franchise, I'm already going to be pissing off a lot of butthurt fanboys, but I don't really give a shit. So yeah, that's my history with Gamera versus Gyaos. I'm not the biggest fan of this film. I think it's one of the most overrated Gamera movies ever made, and it's just not my bag. Though there are a couple, like I said, there's a couple of good things about the film that I will give mention to. So, let's get to the plot, shall we? So the film begins with a series of volcanoes that start erupting throughout Japan, and the eruption of Mount Futago in the Shizuoka Prefecture attracts Gamera, who, of course, is still going around the world looking for sources of heat to feed on. This will really be the last movie where that'll be really addressed in the series. And this will also be the last time where Gamera really walks around on all fours like a real turtle does. He did it. He did a little bit in the first film, and he did it quite a bit in. Sorry, someone's texting me. And he did it for a little bit in Gamera versus. No, he did a lot in Gamera versus Berrigan. And he'll do it a little bit here, but throughout the series, he'll just mainly remain bipedal for the most part. The only time where he'll be on fours is if he's like landing from flying, but that's about it. But anyway, the arrival of Gamera at Mount Futago is witnessed by a young boy named, get this, technically he's named Eiichi, but Brendan Tenold maybe changed his name to just plain Itchy. So I will refer to him as Itchy throughout the rest of this video, and make all your all dogs go to heaven jokes all you want, because I will be calling this kid Itchy. So Gamera climbs up and into the volcano and starts to feed on the flames given off for him to feed. You want to take over for a little bit, KPF? I noticed you're not really involved with the plots for the last two reviews.
I didn't write it down, so you can just do it.
I'm using the Wikipedia page.
Ugh. Yeah. All right, let me. Fuck. All right. So where were you? What paragraph were you on here?
After Gamera climbs into the volcano, a research team is dispatched to find Gamera and study the effects of the eruption. However, while this is going on, an extremely boring plot point is going on, being the Chuo Expressway Corporation is building a roadway nearby. However, local villagers refuse to leave. Take over, KPF.
The research team's helicopter is destroyed by a sonic beam, which was a fucking awesome scene, emitted from a cave in the mountains. Reporters are informed that no bodies were found. That the culprit is not Gamera or the volcanic eruption. An announcement will be made soon. One of the reporters, Okabe, I don't know how to say that, leaves for the site, and he and the road crew foreman Shiro. Oh, God damn! I can't fucking do these.
Tsutsumi.
Got it.
How about I take over?
No, I got it. Arrive at a protest area simultaneously. Okabe, whatever, sneaks through the barrier, and Satsumi and his crew are turned away, as are the villager protesters. But by the arrival of a young woman.
The villagers return to inform the village headmen of all the goings-on around the place. And the protests are actually really a ploy so that they can get more money for their land. Oh, God, this plot point. I hate this plot point. So the young woman is actually revealed to be Itchy's older sister, Itchier. The crew then return to find the work camp destroyed, and they see a strange green glow being emitted from the mountain nearby. And the work crew goes in to investigate. However, Itchy finds Okabe in the woods near Mount Futago, recording the same light that all the workmen saw. And Okabe convinces Itchy that it might be Gamera that destroyed the work camp, and the two make their way to a cave. However, soon after, a cave-in starts, and Okabe runs away, leaving Itchy to be scratched in a cave. Upon exiting the cave, Okabe is eaten by a giant monster, which, of course, is the title monster, Gyaos. The workmen enter the cave from a different opening, and Ichi makes his way out of the cave by himself, not being scratched, where he discovers Gyaos and is trapped by a falling rock. Gyaos grabs Ichi with the intention to scratch him, and then Gamera appears. Shiro and his crew arrive just in time to see the first fight between Gamera and Gyaos, during the course of which Gyaos drops Ichi like a bad habit, who is then rescued by Gamera. Gyaos proceeds to injure Gamera with his supersonic beam, looking like he's about to slice Gamera's arm off, but whatever. However, he is forced to retreat after several blasts from Gamera's fire breath. And then Gamera rescues Ichi, picking up a bad habit, and brings him safely to a nearby amusement park with Ichi riding on his back. This scene. Shiro then uses the Ferris wheel to retrieve Ichi from Gamera's back, and Gamera flies away. Now you.
Oh. God damn it, Ichi. Now I can't stop saying Ichi when I say that name. Whatever, I'm going to go along with it. Ichi is interviewed about his experiences by Dr. Aoki. I don't know how to say that shit. God damn it. And the countermeasures group who have set up headquarters in the Hotel Highland. It is Ichi who calls the new monster Gyaos because of the sound it makes. No, it does not make that sound.
Actually, I figured out that it kind of does. If he sounds like he's screeching in a lengthened, distorted version of Gyaos. Gyaos. If you slow that down, I actually said Gyaos. But anyway.
Oh my. All right. Dr. Aoki explains Gyaos' abilities.
Gyaos.
And that Gyaos' abilities, that it was awakened by the volcanic eruptions. So basically, Rodan, a squadron of aircraft attack Mount Futego, and Gyaos. I know, I'm just pissing me off. Destroys them. Ichi calls to Gamera, who is tending his wounds at the bottom of the sea. I don't know why being in the water would help him there. Gyaos attacks at night, and all the cattle in the village run away. During a meeting the next day, the villagers become divided on whether to sell their land or not because of Gyaos. Satsumi's entire crew, save two
the Bulk and Sko motherfuckers,
also quits because of Gyaos. Or else looking in the bushes scares the remaining men who think it's Gyaos. Instead, Ichi emerges to tell Tatsumi that Gyaos only comes out at night. Tatsumi reports this to Dr. Aoki, and the defenders used light to make it too bright at night without success.
Miserably.
Gyaos annihilates the Japanese self-defense force with a blast of wind and flies south to Nagoya. Probably said the wrong.
No, you got it. Gyaos wreaks havoc in the city, and the people gather at the Junichi Dragons Stadium, where all the lights have been turned on. Then Gamera shows up, and they battle in the skies for their second fight over Nagoya, which is a fairly entertaining scene. Gamera soon gains the upper hand because Gyaos' sonic ray cannot penetrate Gamera's shell, unlike the next.
Shut up, Sean.
Unlike the next film's adversary. Gyaos then extinguishes Gamera's flame breath with a yellow vapor fired from Gyaos' nipples. And when Gamera hits the water, he proceeds to bite Gyaos' foot and tries to hold them there until sunrise. However, Gyaos ends up severing his own foot off and flies away. His toes are found washed up on the beach by some workers, and they are eventually brought to Dr. Aoki, where it is remarked that it has shrunk considerably since its discovery. Well, it's cold water. Everybody shrinks when they're in cold water. Further experiments reveal that ultraviolet light has caused the severed toe to shrink. Therefore, if Gyaos is out in the sun for too long, Gyaos will die. He's pretty much a kaiju vampire. Meanwhile, Gyaos has retreated to its cave and has regrown his toes. Itchy, along with his sister, Itchier, burst into the planning meeting and inadvertently gives Dr. Aoki the idea he needs. Now get this is an actual plan. They will lure Gyaos out at night and immobilize him by making him dizzy by using a rotating platform full of artificial blood on top of the hotel. What? Moving on. Now you.
Oh. Okay. The Defense Force constructs another platform on top of the existing one with a giant bowl of artificial blood on it. With the help of Tatsumi and his crew, they also build a viewing shelter. A delegation of villagers appear and tell Tatsumi they will no longer oppose the expressway. The admin appears, and there seems to be some disagreement between the two sides. Gyaos is lured out, but the plan ultimately falls when the substation powering the motors explodes. Gyaos then destroys the hotel, extinguishes the substation fire with its vapor.
Nipples.
Flies away. Yeah.
And because of Gyaos and the expressway being rerouted, and the villagers who were told by the headmen to hold out can no longer sell their land, the villagers blame the elder, and Itchy comes out of his house, throwing a flea tantrum and berates the villagers for their greed. His sister, Itchier, also tells the villagers that the headman was acting in their best interests, and the villagers then proceed to leave. Back inside the house, Itchy and Itchier talked amongst themselves about Gamera would be the one to finish Gyaos, and that starting a forest fire at Mount Futago would attract Gamera to come fight Gyaos, which actually is one thing that this movie does better than its predecessor, is that it realizes, hey, we have another giant monster that could potentially kill this thing. Why don't we just use him? Anyway, the headman goes to Tatsumi and explains the plan. Tatsumi tells the headman that there will be a lot of money lost because of the destroyed trees, but, you can't regrow trees. However, the headman believes that Gyaos was sent as punishment for their greed.
Oh my god, I hated that.
Tatsumi and his crew use their construction equipment to prepare the area for the fire, and an airstrike napalms the shit out of the place. Gyaos appears to put out the fire with his vapor nipples, and the second time the fire is started, it does succeed in attracting Gamera. The third and final fight ensues, which ends with Gamera taking Gyaos from behind, immobilizing him, and flying him to Mount Fuji, where he then drags Gyaos into the crater to die, and Gamera flies away, thus ending the film. So how about this plot? Well, doesn't live up to Gamera versus Baragon. Not at all. Not at all. I think this movie is a vast decline from its predecessor. Even though Gamera is a lot more involved with this film, I really do think that this movie is a massive letdown from Gamera versus Baragon. So that's really all my thoughts on it initially. What are your initial thoughts for this film, KPF?
In general, I think it improved where Barugon had mistakes, but what Barugon did wrong, it did 10 times worse, in my opinion.
Alrighty, fair enough.
Bit of a mixed bag for me.
Yeah, to say the least. Okay, so let's get to the pros of Gamera versus Gyaos, shall we? How many do you have? I have 4. How many?
I have 8 pros.
You can go first. I only have 4.
Okay, so Gamera's suit in the film, it looks better. I think that one of the things that I think looked initially weird about him, I think, if I'm remembering right, in Barugan, his arms looked a little weirder. Like they looked like they just were like a last minute like addition to the suit. Like someone just like sewed on the 2 little arms. For whatever reason, the suit looked a little better in this. I think the scenes where Gyaos could use this as beam to like split things in half was really cool. I loved that. The reveal, of Gyaos when he's down in that little like valley and fucking Ichi is like looking. You just like see the top of his head. I thought that was pretty cool, and I like his design. Gyaos' design. It looks pretty cool. I like that they added like the whole more bat-like features, like the wings kind of fold up. I kind of liked that. And I like the head. It looks a lot like the Hawk Muto from Godzilla 2014 in terms of just what?
Just always goes back to 2014 for you, doesn't it?
It does. It looks just like it. And for whatever reason, when they had Gyaos' giant hand trying to like, I can't remember if he was trying to grab Ichi or that guy that was like with Ichi. The hand scene looked cool. The destruction scene where he's kind of going through the city was awesome. The fight scenes in this movie, way better. In terms of the monster fights, way better than they were in Barugan. I think they were underwhelming in Barugan. I mean, Gamera showed up first, got frozen, and then just like bit Barugan 10 times, and then it was over. And they continue to do the effects with the suits they did with Barugan, where they have like certain parts light up. I thought that was pretty cool. That's about it.
That's all your pros?
Yep.
I thought you had 8.
I did.
Okay. So my pros for Gamera versus Gyaos, like I said, I have 4. The music score, pro number 1, the music score for this movie is decent. 1 second. Well, at least he wasn't screeching and hollering this time. Shut up, KPF. It's not even remotely funny. Anyway, there's something to edit out. I can still hear you.
Oh my god.
I can still hear you. Anyway, as I was saying, the music score for Gamera versus Gyaos is decent. It's not quite as good as the music score for the previous movie. Actually, let's see. Who did the music score for Gamera versus Gyaos? Oh, it doesn't say. Anyway, well, the music score for this movie is not, like I said, it's not as good as Gamera versus Barugan, but still for this movie, it is fitting. The music score for Gyaos, at least in the first act of the film, it has good build up for Gyaos. I will give it that. Gyaos certainly has a good theme in this film, and the opening theme when Gamera is walking throughout the volcano, that's a good theme too. And overall, throughout the film, the music score, it does complement the movie, though, like I said, it's not as good as Gamera versus Barugan. Pro number 2, like I mentioned a minute ago, is that this movie has a good build-up for Gyaos. Like the first scene where Ichi and his dude are going throughout the cave, and we see the shitty bats. Oh my god, those bats!
God. They're back.
They look even worse than they did in Gamera versus Barugan, if that's even possible. But the film has really good build-up for the first appearance of Gyaos. Like, they kind of pull an original Alien, where they only show bits and pieces of Gyaos before they show his full body. So I do like that. And overall, this movie does have good build-up for Gyaos. I will give this movie that. It kind of does remind me, once again, go back to 2014. It's got good build-up for the Mutos in that film. Not quite as good as 2014, but similarly. Pro number 3 is that the monster fights in this film are a big improvement over the previous film. I will give this movie that. As much as I do like Gamera versus Barugan, yeah, the monster fights in that movie, especially the first one, wasn't that good. And thankfully, the monster fights in this movie are a lot more entertaining. They're a lot more dynamic. They're a lot more quickly paced. There's a lot more action going on in it. So that's good, at least. I do think the weakest fight is the first one, I will admit. It just kind of consists of Gamera getting his ass kicked for most of the fight. The second one is a lot better. The first half of it is just a big air battle, which is really entertaining because these are two flying monsters. So it's nice that the filmmakers had, okay, these are two flying monsters. Let's have a couple dog fights throughout this movie as well. So that was cool. And the third fight is I actually think it's probably the best scene in the film, especially when Gamera takes Gyaos from behind. Cue that music that Brendan Tenold used for his video. Anyway, so yeah, the final fight is really entertaining, and it's also nice to see that two monsters in a row bleed grape Kool-Aid. So yeah, the monster fights in this movie are pretty entertaining. And pro number 4 is that the special effects for this movie, they're decent. They're not good like the previous movie was, but they're decent. They're above average, I will say. The suit still, well, actually, no. The Gamera suit looks good. They redesigned his face to make him look a lot more doughy and look like he's like a big, powerful version of Barney in this movie. Well, he's starting to be like a big, powerful version of Barney. He really becomes that in the next movie, but they redesigned Gamera's face, and Gamera will have this design up until Guiron. So I'm not going to comment on it in the next movie and in Guiron because he looks the same in 3 movies. So I do like Gamera's design for this movie. It's probably his most classic Showa design, but I don't like it as much as the previous film's design. But it's overall okay. The suitimation looks all right. The sets look good. The city sets also look pretty well constructed. When buildings and vehicles are destroyed by Gauss's supersonic ray, the way they perfectly are sliced in half looks pretty cool. Though there's one scene where the helicopter at the beginning is sliced in half and it slowly comes apart and people start falling out. It's a little ridiculous because that's not what would happen in real life because, Dai still cannot do planes. And there's another scene where there's a car that is sliced in half by Gauss's beam, and there's like, what was it, like 2 or 3 dudes in the movie or in the car? There's 3 dudes. Okay, one half of the car stays in place, but the other half, it's like the shell of the car. The engine doesn't get destroyed; it like shoots off, and then the third dude, it's like, whoa, what the fuck? He jumps off the one half, and he jumps onto the other half, and they just start driving away again. That scene's funny. I will give it that. That scene is funny. The wireworks are a mixed bag. There's a lot of moments where you can see the wires, usually when the monsters are about to take off, but the wire work for overall is kind of okay. And overall, the special effects, they're they're above average. They're not terrible, but they're not amazing either. So let's get to the cons. You go first, KPF.
I have 6 cons. So the first one
I have 5.
is Ichi. Or I guess in a way you could say is Ichiro before Ichiro was a thing from Godzilla's Revenge. They're both wearing the same hat. They could have just been the style at the time, but basically, mini Ichiro, a lot less annoying. Still pretty bad. Those stupid fucking bats in the cave. God damn, they're so bad. They are so stiff. Anyway, Gamera, once again, and this is kind of all going to lead up to one giant con I have with the film. Gamera once again acts like a dumbass. He gets his arm hit by Gyaos. He's it doesn't even do anything. There's a lot of just scientific jargon shit that they say during the film. It's just kind of boring. The plan to kill Gyaos is one of the weirdest whack ass plans I've ever seen. It is so fucking weird. And to make another funny joke, well, I remember in the movie, they showed some newspaper clippings, and it was a boy rides on Gamera. Good God, I hated that scene. Anyway, the big problem with this movie, it's just like the last one. You have a monster who has some weird glow effect on his suit, who has some weird-ass weakness. Gamera shows up, gets his ass kicked instantly. The military tries to find a way to beat the monster. Gamera comes in the end and kills the monster. It's the same fucking story. Only this time, there was less actual good stuff as a side plot, like the jewel and the island, and this time it was a fucking railway. So, it's the same formula, and it got kind of annoying.
Yep, you all make good points. So my cons for the movie. Con number 1 is Gyaos himself. I cannot stand Gyaos for the life of me. I don't like his design. I don't like his roar. I don't like his power set. The only one that I kind of like is the nipple thing, but only because it leads to a funny joke. But yeah, I don't like Gyaos. I don't like the fact that he is considered to be Gamera's ultimate foe, where I really wish it was Barugan. But no, it's got to be fucking Gyaos. I just don't like Gyaos. I don't like his roar, don't like his design, don't like his power set. I just cannot stand Gyaos for the life of me. Con number 2 is that the green screen effects in this movie are just fucking horrendous.
Oh yeah, there was I noticed that.
And they just keep getting worse and worse and worse as the series goes on. But the green screen effects in this movie, they're thankfully the best of the worst throughout the series. But yeah, the green screen effects for this movie, they're pretty terrible. Con number 3 is that this movie is poorly paced. The first act is decently paced because it starts out with a bang, but then it kind of slows down and it has that good build up for Gyaos. The third act, when they're trying to kill Gyaos with the rotating bullshit thing, that's when even though it's stupid, that's when the movie does pick up and become entertaining. But it's that damn second act that is really difficult to sit through. The only break in the second act that's entertaining is Gamera's second fight with Gyaos. But outside of that, the second act is a chore to sit through because that's when the road plot really starts to pick up. And that leads me into con number 3 is that the road plot in this movie is just boring. Boring, boring, boring as fuck. I don't give a flying fuck about these villagers wanting to screw over a big corporation to get more money so that they can be greedy assholes. I don't fucking care.
Oh, that's another thing. The men are greedy, stupid fucking thing came back too. So I'm pretty sure that that they said that in the end of the last movie. I forget the character's name. Whoever was the main character, Kaisuke, whatever the fuck his name was.
Keisuke.
Yeah, he was like, what have mankind come to? And I'm like, it's like the same. They said.
By the way, that
because of greed.
That same actor plays Tatsumi in this movie too.
Yes.
So yeah, the road plot boring. The road plot is just really boring, and it's really the worst part about this movie. It's so difficult to sit through, and that leads me to a fourth con that I have just added is the reused greed plot point. It just feels like, yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like it's being reused from Gamera versus Barragan, and it just comes off as them being lazy. And also, it's really, really shoehorned in at the last minute. Worse than the previous movie, because at least it was kind of an overarching theme throughout Gamera versus Barragan, even though it got a little preachy towards the end. Here, it's just shoved in at the last minute, and it really, really shows.
Yeah, that was out of nowhere.
Yeah. Con number 5 is that the entire human cast for this movie sucks. They're very bland. They're very boring. They have no personality. Their dialogue ranges from basic to boring. The human cast in this movie, it's one of the most unnoteworthy human casts in a kaiju movie that I've ever seen in my life. Con number 6, Itchy.
Oh.
Thankfully, the nicest thing I can say about Itchy is that of all the kid characters throughout Gamera movies, he's probably the least annoying. Because wait until you get to the next movie, KPF. Because they have 2 instead of just 1.
Oh, fuck.
And it remains 2 for the rest of the Showa series up until Gamera Super Monster. But the thing is, the thing is, the kid in Gamera Super Monster is as annoying, if not more, than 2 kids.
Fuck.
But yeah, Itchy, thankfully, is the least most annoying kid of the entire Showa Gamera series. But he still is annoying. Especially in the English dub. Oh my god, the English dub for this movie is terrible. And it makes Itchy out to be way more annoying than he actually is. But Itchy, he has his moments where he's tolerable to listen to, but overall he still is pretty annoying. Though thankfully, and he's nowhere near as annoying as Toshio. Toshio is just stupid. At least Itchy isn't trying to sabotage plans to kill the monster. But yeah, Itchy is still pretty annoying. So with all that said, what are your final thoughts on Gamera versus Gyaos?
Do you want me to give my rating too, or just we'll do thoughts first?
We'll do thoughts real quick.
All right. I can say I liked it. I think my major issue, like I said earlier, my major issue with Barugon was the monster action. This definitely fixed that, and I do like Gyaos a little better than Barugon.
Oh wait, one more pro. So this is pro number 5. Is that this movie does improve on one thing that Barugon did not have. Gamera has a lot more screen time in this movie. This movie is 92 minutes long, I believe. And I'd be willing to say that Gamera has about 18 minutes of screen time. So
I think it's 88 minutes long.
Okay, well, it's 90 minutes long, but Gamera has plenty of screen time in this movie, thankfully. So that is an improvement I can say this movie does over Gamera versus Barragan. Continue.
So yeah, the monster action's a lot better. The human characters took a fucking nosedive, and
gets even worse.
It's hard to say though, because the monster action is so much better, but the human shit is so much worse. But at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to do good monster action than human stuff. So I
True.
do think that Barugon bounds better in that category. But overall, I'm not gonna get my score yet. I think it was slightly worse than Barugon. Slightly.
Well, I'm the exact opposite. I think this movie is way worse than Gamera versus Barugon. I'm not the biggest fan. I'm sorry. I don't like Gyaos. The human characters suck. The road plot is boring. I'm just not the biggest fan of this movie. And like I keep saying, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse from here on out. We'll get another. Well, hang on. I'll save that for the very end. So, what's your rating for this film, KPF?
Okay, so I gave Barugon. I'm gonna say this. I gave Barugon a 7 out of 10 the other day. When I reflect on it, I want to bump that to a 7.5. When I really started thinking about it. So, if you see that old review, it's a 7.5 now. But I give this film a 6 out of 10.
I give Gamera versus Gyaos a 5.5 out of 10. Just not the biggest fan. It's not one of the worst monster movies I've ever seen. And if you had to make me sit down and watch one Gamera movie, I could tough myself through it. But there's far better Gamera movies out there that I would rather watch. 5.5 out of 10. Not the biggest fan. I'm sorry. So with that being said, thank you very much for listening to me and KPF talk about this film. And from here on out, guys, we're going to have some rough goes. The fifth film is an enjoyably bad movie, but from here on out, the rest of the Showa Gamera series is just utter garbage. And the next movie is easily one of the worst of the series. So, post your comment.
The fifth one is so bad it's good?
Yeah.
You're on?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video with your friends. Subscribe to KPF's channel. He's got some re-edits of my video on the way out, including a shut up, Sean moment. And Sean, shut it with the fucking annoying me being 10 out of 10 bullshit. And please at least look forward to the next video as KPF and I rip and tear into one of the worst Gamera movies of the entire series with 1968's Gamera versus Virus. Look forward to that. Go out and get involved with an annoying kid who's just like a bad itch and never goes away as we watch a giant turtle take a giant bat from behind and take him in to burn. And I will see you guys in the next video. Say bye, KPF.
Bye. Never burp ready.